What's good, folks? It's Warframe here with a ridiculous and fun setup for Vauban, hopefully making Vauban mains proud. This build is about playing smart and utilizing your kit. Unfortunately, his orbital strike is utter trash, so I replaced that. This playstyle and build is catered to an endurance setting, where you have to be aware of your surroundings and positioning, and if played right, it'll have you divide, conquer, pillage, and destroy. Once you get into that rotation and you're set, but sometimes you might get carried away because it's just that much fun. Let's quickly go over his kit and see how I play him. Vauban has an amazing passive that increases damage done to incapacitated enemies by 25%. This buff applies to his weapons and Flechette Orb. It is a multiplicative damage increase. The incapacitated effect counts with his Tesla Nervos Shock Stun, Tether Coil Mine, and his Bastille Vortex combo. His first ability, Tesla Nervos. Vauban throws out orb drones that seek out and attach themselves to enemies, dealing periodic shock damage with a chance to proc the electric status effect, and also crowd controls them. It scales from power, range, and duration. Power affects its damage intervals, range affects its shock radius, and duration affects its charges. If the target dies before the charges run out, it'll seek out new enemies. Hold the ability and release to throw out the maximum amount of drones. The second ability, Mine Layer, is a collection of 4 different abilities. Tether Coil is a sticky mine that sticks to anything that it touches and pulls in up to 2 enemies and damages them and holds them down, unable to do anything but be victims. Damage scales from power and grab range from range. Flechette Orb is a spinning turret that is deployed on a surface that deals puncture damage with a 50% crit chance and a 2 times critical multiplier. The damage scales with power and enemy level. It can also scale higher with his passive and his upcoming mine, Overdriver, and it also staggers enemies. Overdriver is a deployed mine that buffs you with a multiplicative damage increase to total damage that scales from power strength. This synergizes with his Flechette Orb. The attach radius scales from range, and you can have a maximum of 4 Overdrivers active at a time. And ignore Vector Pad, it's a meme and shouldn't exist. And now onto Bastille. This ability has 2 forms. A quick tap cast will deploy a device that captures and holds up enemies and completely incapacitate them. Enemies held will have their armor gradually stripped and grant you armor in the process, capping at 1000 armor. The amount of enemies captured and the armor strip per second all scale from power strength, and the capture radius is affected by range. And when you hold cast this ability, it turns into a vortex, pulling in enemies into a clump, taking periodic magnetic damage. Vortex also pulls in loot for a convenient pickup. Leaving Bastille up will have it collapse into Vortex over time, and you can hold the ability down to manually force Bastille into Vortex. Enemies caught in this ability cannot attack at all, and has them open for Flechette Orb. This Vauban uses the Pillage ability from Hildred for survivability and a DPS increase. Pillage is Hildred's second ability that can be subsumed with the Helmet segment. You send out a wave that strips enemy shields and armor. The defense strip scales of power strength, the initial wave radius from range, and the expansion radius from duration. When the wave returns, it grants you shields and overshields. And what makes this ability deadlier on other frames is that it uses energy instead of shields. So if your shields break, you can still cast this ability and regain another shield gate, while Hildred cannot. You can use this as a survivability tool to abuse shield gating. This ability also cleanses you of status effects. Let me quickly explain shield gating. So when a Warframe fully depletes their shields, they gain 1.3 seconds of invulnerability. You will get the full duration if your shields are fully replenished. But if the shields are still in the process of recharging after the gate has been triggered, the shield gate will only last for 0.33 seconds. Having a basic shield pool or a decaying dragon key, which reduces your shield pool, will save you even more than you think. So you can take full advantage of that 1.3 seconds of invulnerability. And a mod like Rolling Guard is a phenomenal lifesaver when it comes to moments where your shields are getting taken down instantly ever so often. And it's a great tool for engaging and disengaging a fight. Let's not forget about natural talent, making Warframe's abilities instantaneous and have less dragged out animations that can get you killed. Alright, let's take a look at the build. Enemy radar in the aura for the consistent 30-meter enemy radar. Prime sure-footed in the X-list for the 100% knockdown resistance, especially when using a melee and having loads of high-level enemies around you. Eximus units, you name it. Spending less time on your butt is a huge DPS increase and a massive survivability tool. Duration at 155% with the use of Prime Continuity. This gives my Tesla Nervos 15 charges, Mind Layer 23.75 seconds, 3.1 seconds expansion radius on Pillage, and 23.25 seconds on Bastille and Vortex. 175% range with Stretch and Augur Reach, giving my Tesla Nervos 10.5 meters shock radius, Tether Coil 35 meter grab radius, and 17.5 meter radius on Overdriver, 14 meter radius on Pillage, and 17.5 meters radius on Bastille and Vortex. Power strength at 144%. This grants Flechette Orb 432 damage, which will also scale with enemy level. 36% multiplicative buff on Overdriver, and 36% defense strip on Pillage, and 14.4% armor strip per second on Bastille. Flow and Streamline for the increase in energy pool and efficiency. Natural Talent for the 50% additional casting speed, making all of his abilities smoother to use. Rolling Guard for the added defenses for the 3 seconds of invulnerability and cleanses you of status effects. Energize for the energy regen, and Eruption for the added crowd control. 100% chance to knock down enemies within a 30-meter radius when you pick up an energy orb. Great additional crowd control for added survivability. I'll be using my Magnetic Nucor as a primer for status effects, and a Gram Prime as my melee. You can use whatever /dominant weapon you want, but I wanted to switch it up. The Nucor is for utility purposes only. My Nucor has bonus magnetic and it has innate radiation, and I built it for viral and heat. And each unique status effect boosts Condition Overload's damage scaling, and the viral stacks will have you deal multiplicative health damage, especially when I combine it with a heavy / melee that bleeds enemies. It has increased range, fire rate, dodge speed, and with eject magazine. It'll reload 20% of your weapon's magazine when it's holstered, and this works if you attack with melee. And my melee is Gram Prime, modded for no elements whatsoever. You never need anything else if you have a dominant / weapon to bleed enemies. Using the Temporal stance for the great combos and DPS rotations, Condition Overload for the scaling damage, Blood Rush for the scaling crit chance, Reach for the range, always have range on your melees, Weeping Wounds for the scaling status chance, and Berserker alongside Quickening for the attack speed. Prime Smite mod allowing me to deal multiplicative damage towards the faction I'm up against. Easy and deadly. I'll be using the Nerimon Focus School to keep up my combo duration up at all times with the focus node Power Spike. I did have a Riven which had crit damage and attack speed with negative finisher damage. Please don't go for damage or crit chance for a Gram Riven, it's a bad choice. And of course the Panzer Kavat, the best Kavat for endurance runners, modded to spread its viral and strip some armor. And here it is guys, the Pillage Conqueror VAUBAN. Try it out for yourself, see if you like it. Anyway, this has been it from me. I do hope you enjoyed this video and learned something. And if you did, feel free to leave a like, share, and subscribe. For more Warframe content, streams, and so much more, do refer to the description. Thanks for watching, and as always, peace.